welcome to tonight's conversation. I hope that we have lots of viewers out there. If you can hear me, please make sure that you send me a hello, hola. What's the weather like where you're at? Over here in Alabama, it's cold, okay? If it's not 70 degrees or higher, it's cold for me. So what's the temperature for you? Anybody out there? Just give me a shout out. All right, so I'm going to start introducing everybody on my panel. We're going to start with la muy popular Raquel Lucas. Rachel, I don't know if they ever call Rachel Raquel, but today I'm going to call her Raquel. So Rachel Lucas is a Spanish teacher and ed tech coach with over 16 years teaching experience, including teaching online and hybrid. You guys know Rachel a lot. Rachel is the founder of the Tech for World Language Teachers community on Facebook. In addition, she is the founder of the World Language Teacher Tech Academy, and Rachel regularly hosts professional development sessions about how to best use technology in the world language classroom. Rachel is passionate about helping teachers save time, engage students, and increase proficiency. So everybody, give it up for Miss Rachel or Raquel Lucas. Woohoo! Hey,
wow, what an introduction. Well, yeah, I'm so glad to be here and to do this and to have this important conversation. So thank you for having me and inviting me to do this.
Yes, Rachel, you like my cuz.
Yeah, and actually my name it's funny, on my birth certificate it's Rachel, but my entire life my family called me Raquel. So yeah, you can call me Raquel, that's fine.
Raquel, awesome. Well, let me introduce you to the next panelist. This panelist is one of our top contributors in our incorporating Afro-Latino culture in Spanish classrooms. I've learned this person has taught me so much information about the culture, and her name is Ainaka Luna. She's born in Bogota, Colombia. She used to identify herself as mestiza, and mostly like Colombians do. She is a sociologist, a teacher, a dancer, a mother, a hiker, a gardener. Go, Ainaka, you go, girl. She says, my passion for dancing guided me to discover, acknowledge, and promote the Afro-Latin Latin American culture. So here we go, one of our top contributors, Ainaka. Ainaka has a nice name. I like that name.
Hey, hola. Thank you for the question.
Good to meet you. So sometimes we have people posting on our page and we don't know their faces. We just have that little avatar, and it's like, gosh, you're so small. They're not small. Those people are very important people. So let me introduce you to our next two people. We have somebody that is also one of the top contributors, and this person is from all the way from Panama City, Panama. We have Rosa Maria Bell. She's an experienced teacher, entrepreneur, trainer, presenter, coach, advisor, and an American Council of Teachers of Foreign Language ACFO mentor. Yay! We love mentors. In January 2019, Rosa was elected as a president of the American Association of Teachers of Spanish and Portuguese. Over 12 years of teaching experience, 15 years of supporting colleagues in education, from early childhood education to adult education. Rosa has a passion for bringing the heart, soul, and mind of her culture in her classes and loves collaborating with teachers in workshops and conferences. Rosa is also the advisor of Sociedad Honoraria Hispánica, the Multicultural Club, and the UNICEF Club at James Campbell High School, where she guides students to be leaders while discovering their own culture. Rosa, I think you're from Hawaii, right, Rosa? Hold on, let me bring her in.
Hawaii.
Is it Hawaii?
That'd be nice.
Am I right?
Yeah, it is Hawaii.
It's dark over here. Look at her window. It's so bright.
Right. Yeah.
So
it's only 3 o'clock in here.
Wow, Rosa, thanks for joining us. I know it's hard to get you in here at this time. Yo, you're the president, Prez. Thank you so much, Rosa, for joining us today, all the way from Hawaii. I'm glad we didn't have to pay that plane ticket for you to get here.
I'm over here in Hawaii.
That is awesome. I love that to you, Rosa. Okay, so we have our next person that we have is one of our contributors as well. I'm so excited to introduce this person because she has a different background than all of us. Well, all of us have different backgrounds. But let me introduce you to Amber Moore. She's a native of Lake Charles, Louisiana. She now resides in Houston, Texas. And although she was born in a French state, she is a fluent Spanish speaker where she grew up speaking the language at the age of 7. She also speaks French and Louisiana Creole. She identifies herself as a Creole of color, Afro Creole, or Black Creole. Her ancestry can be traced from Africa, France, and Nova Scotia. Amber started teaching in 2012, taught Spanish for 6 years, and social studies for 2 years. So let's give it up for Amber. Amber, Afro Creole. I'm so excited to have you because I've never personally met somebody from Afro Creole. So this is so cool to have you here, Amber. Yeah, Houston, Texas. You're on the same time zone, so it's cool. Oh my gosh, that's so neat. And we have one more person. This person is one of my co-administrators on our incorporating Afro-Latino culture in Spanish classrooms. This young lady has been with me since 2018. She's one of the first people that says like on my page and join. And ever since then, she's been like contributing, and now she's like one of the people that helps me administrate that page. So here's Camilla Maria Evans. Camilla is a Spanish teacher born in Washington, D.C. and raised in the Washington metropolitan area. She has 5 years of teaching in Southeast D.C., and she has been teaching for 2.5 years in Atlanta, Georgia. Camila identifies as Afro-Americana con sazón. Go, girl! I mean, that music. Her experience is intersectional at best when it comes to being the African descent. She grew up as an African American but has Latin roots in Mexico, Puerto Rico, New Orleans, and possibly Cuba. Camila has experience teaching African American students and loves to show the students that you can be Black and bilingual. She also loves to teach students about the richness of the African diaspora. She uses her vast travel experience to inspire her students to learn Spanish and instill them in them a desire to explore the world. Oh, I love that. I love explore the world. Here is Camila. Hola, Camila.
Hola, ¿cómo están todos?
Hola.
You are doing good, Camila. So good to have you, and thank you for your help on that page. I appreciate you. Everybody say hola. Everybody saying hola to Camila. It's so sweet. So we're gonna get started.
Hola. I see Martina Jax. Hola. That's so cool.
I know it. Martina, you're famous, so that's what it's like having J-Lo on our page.
No.
Anyway, so I'm going to get started with the first question. Loaded question. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask a question, and I want every one of the panelists to respond to the question. Whoever wants to get started, go ahead and raise your hand. Whoever, I don't want to call you and you're not ready to talk. So just raise your hand like this, like the Zoom meetings. You go like this and you just start talking. Whoever does it first, go ahead, and then we'll go to the next person. So give me a second, gotta get to my doc. Okay, so the first question is, when was the first time you understood the word negro? And how was it used? How was that used? When was the first time you ever heard that word and you understood it? You understood what it meant. And how was it used? Go ahead, Amber. Go ahead.
For me, it was similar as it was a term of endearment, but it was in French. So I had a great grandparent. Well, she was my second great grandmother. She was actually good to see my mom and her siblings when they were little. So she was around the time that they were little. So they would call her my neg. And word neg never really I didn't really think of a negative connotation with it because it was always used in French as a term of endearment until when I started teaching Spanish, 2012, and I said, well, Negro is Black, and they had a lot of African American students that were of Anglo ancestry. I think they took it the wrong way. Like I was saying, it's the color black. They thought I was calling them a Negro, and I wasn't calling anyone. I was just describing like a black shirt. Negro. Oh, they're saying like the N word. That's when I kind of noticed that not everyone takes it that way. And to this day, you'll still have people like if I wanted to say I had a boyfriend, I'll say Moneg. Like it's just the way it's used, especially in the very south part of Louisiana, like Vermilion Parish or like Acadia Parish. They'll say that. I mean, the fairest skinned person is called Neg, where I'm from. So I guess I have the same experience as everyone and most people in America would.
That's good. Thank you, Amber. Thank you. Camila, you want to chime in with her?
Yeah. So I was trying to think about when the first time I heard the word negro, but I think I probably heard the word Negro before I heard the word negro because I grew up speaking English first. And usually it was used in I guess I'll say a playful and maybe kind of derogatory context. It was usually as the politer version of the actual N-word type of thing, like Negro, please, kind of thing. That's what you would hear. I never heard anyone use Negro to say, like Moneg or anything, or ay, mi negro, mi negrita. It wasn't used as a term of endearment. And then as the pronunciation negro, the word in Spanish, probably heard it sometime in Spanish class, and it was just in the context of it was a color, and that was it. And then when I've learned more about racial constructs in Latin America, I would hear negro usually used for the darkest of people, and negro wasn't a word that I could use to describe myself, and people didn't use negro to describe me. I was always mulata. And for me, that was strange because growing up, I was always made fun of for being light skinned when I was a kid. They used to call me light bright and almost white, and people would accuse me of having one white parent or a white grandparent, and that was the reason that I got good grades or things like that. And I used to hate it. So I used to latch onto blackness, and so there are some times when I felt in Spanish it was kind of hard to not be able to claim blackness. I couldn't claim being negra because I'm too light for that, So it's kind of a weird relationship with the word negro. But so on one side it's a color, and on the other side as a racial term, but it wasn't a term that I could necessarily use in Latin America. In the US, yes, I could say I'm black all day. But yeah, so that would be probably the first time I used negro.
That's good, Camila. Anybody else want to join in with that one? Okay, go ahead, Rosa.
Well, I can say my experience were more like passing from different stages of the word negro, because for where I come from, I grew up in between black community, but I didn't know I was a negra. I know that I was a morenita, morena, mulata, maybe negrita, but growing up just knowing that a little bit, not too much. It was always like, okay, la morenita. We want to describe somebody, right? But it was until I met my husband, which is black from Chicago, and he say, "Oh, I'm glad to meet una mujer negra, a black woman. What are you calling me negra? Or I am negra?" And that's when I say, "Oh, so negro from Latin America, from where I grew up in Panama, it could be offensive, depends who say it, right? But I grew up just thinking that I was morena, like let's say brown skin color, never called negra. So it wasn't until very, very knowledge of that when I met my husband and he said, "No, you are black. You eres negra." And you're, "Oh, okay, all right." And then I say like that. But it's better to know by the beginning that like that, right? But that's when I found out that the word negra, it could be used for me and not morena. But yeah, it was that time.
Wow. That's good. That's good. Ainaka?
Yeah, I grew in Bogota, Colombia, where, as I said, everybody is mestizo. We are just a mix of everything. We are just, everybody's brown, basically. Nobody can claim I am white, that I'm black, and unless there are the remote communities of like Africans that escape and they form their own communities and never mix. But apart of that, there are no the pure like communities. And I was, or I am, or I was always like the darkest in my family. But however, my family considered themselves as white. But I know that my grandfather, I recognize him as a black. But I am the only white that I say my grandfather was black, and they were like, no, 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 it's just a little bit like dark, but he is not really black. But I grew up with the word negra, like in the songs. Like I love salsa, and it's all the time they are talking about the beautiful black woman, the la negra, la negrita. There are songs in Latin America like negrita, tu llega, like so many songs about using that word. My grandfather, the white one, he was calling me negrita all the. All my relatives call me, hey negrita, come here. Blah, blah, blah. So it's so easy to. I call my friends that are black. I can come here, negro. I want to talk to you. So we use that word with not any problem. But then when I came here to United States, it's like, oh wow, I have to take care, be careful, because the term is completely. But I think that one important thing is that in Latin America we didn't have segregation. So I think that there is a big important part, because the segregation here divided the society in colors, whereas for us we didn't have that separation. So that mix made us using the term in a more free way, I believe. So I think that there is it's an important thing that we can use that term with offensive. But yes, sometimes people use it for offending others, but usually we use it with love. Like negrita is like loving. So it's very interesting when we come here and changing languages to English. It's like, wow, we have to be very careful. We cannot use that word.
That's good. Good points. Good points. Rachel, go ahead. Tell us.
All right, so my experience is more related to like Rosa's. So I am Puerto Rican and Dominican. I was born here in the States, but my mom's Puerto Rican, my dad's Dominican, and I was able to live in both countries growing up. And so my dad used to call me Morenita Linda as a term of endearment. So yeah. However, all right, when I was not on his favor, he would call me something else, which I'm not going to say, but it included the word negra.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not going to say the rest of it because it's quite offensive. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, so it depended. If I was a good girl, I got Morenita Linda. If I wasn't, I got negra blank. So, yeah, so my experience with it was it's twofold. It's like, it's a good thing, and it's the term of endearment, and it's also a derogatory term, which in my family, I am the dark one. So, and it was very, I was never really let to forget that I was the dark one in the family. So yeah, from my grandma and all that. But yeah, it's like a whole other story. But yeah, that was my experience with it.
That's awesome. And all of you guys have so many interesting experiences with that, because we're all different. We all come from different backgrounds. And my experience with the negra, the first time I heard that was very little. Juan Luis Guerra is my favorite artist. So he'll say, me sube la bilirrubina. Ay, negra, mira, búscame el cassette. He's saying, negra, búscame el cassette. He's always talking about the black woman being beautiful. So I always grew up thinking that black is beautiful. But no one ever told me I was black. Like, they never told us that. So in Dominican Republic, we grew up where the black people are probably the Haitians, okay? And you're not black. You're just not black. You're morena. You're morena. And that's what I always call myself. Okay, I'm morena. I'm brown. I'm a little brown girl. I'm just, brown. Until I saw Henry Louis Gates' documentary about black in Latin America, and the one with Mexico, which is the grandma in the closet. Oh my gosh, I remember I was doing my student teaching, and I was showing this video to the kids, but I had not, how you show a video without viewing it first? Are you guilty of this? God, Don't tell nobody. So I put that video in there, knowing there's no curse words, but there's this young lady that he interviewed, and he says, "Tu eres negra," and the little girl is like, "My color," and she says, "Sí, soy negra," and I started crying. It's like a classroom of 27 kids. That's the day I knew I was Black. That's the day I figured out I was Black. Like, oh my gosh, nobody ever told me that I was. If that girl, she's brown and Mexican, if she's Black, surely, okay, hands down, I'm Black. Why am I so ashamed? It's not that I was ashamed, but it was like something that you're not that. Okay, it's no big deal. Just you're not that. You're Morena, and I'm like, but Morena is mixed with Black. We're mixed with Black, but it's just it's just such an extraordinary thing that it's just so many different experiences that we deal with. I still think Black is beautiful, and I still think calling someone, but you know how Latin America is. They'll call someone negrito. Like I see some people here saying, they call me negrito and everything. I'm gonna highlight these, but also if you could call someone gorda. Hey gorda, you're not fat at all. You're just skinny as heck. Hey gorda, ven aquí, gorda. And they're grabbing your skin like if you're fat, and it's like, okay, you're not fat, you're skinny, but that's how they do it in Latin America. That's a term of endearment. Even gorda is. So let me highlight some of this stuff here, because I have so many comments. Oh my goodness. Okay, so someone asked Camila a question, and I gotta go back. Hold on, Camila.
Mm-hmm.
This is Martina.
Remember the question? It was from Martina. She was asking about the shades of Black were noticed more in Spanish-speaking countries, and I was going to answer that. I've been thinking about what I would say, and I would say yes and no, because definitely in the United States, I'm light-skinned. Like, there's light skin, there's dark skin, there's brown skin. There's like 3 categories basically, and in the past, it was mostly light skin and dark skin, but there's also, the brown skin in the middle. But we all fall under the same category as Black, even if we're light, brown, or dark, and there's been different types of privilege and stuff attached to that, or discrimination that comes. But I wouldn't say it doesn't exist in the US, because it does. It's just we're all called Black. And then in Latin American countries, it goes back to, the Spanish castas system that they had. And if you look it up, I mean, I've done my DNA. I'm not 50-50, but I'm more like 70-30. But so that has the thing. And then I was also thinking when I heard Rosa say earlier with Morena, and also something that I think Raquel said with Moreno, because another time I heard the term, I didn't always hear it for Black people specifically. It might have been when they were talking about, like when I was in DR, they would refer to you as the Haitians or Negro. And even my darkest Dominican friend, his nickname was El Moreno. And he is beautiful chocolate man. And they call him El Moreno because that's his physical characteristics. And I remember him saying something about wishing he was lighter and everything like that. So that's a thing that happens. But the shades are noticed, and the colorism is in both Latin America and the United States. I think it's everywhere. It's just, it's different. In the United States, we had that 1 drop rule, makes you Black. And so that's why we all were called Black. But in Latin America, that wasn't the case. And then I think it was Ainaka that was talking about mestizaje. And then that's how it was growing up in Latin America. They told the people, mestizaje, somos mestizos. And if you guys know from the Spanish case system, mestizo doesn't even mean all 3 of the roots. It just means 2. It just means European and indigenous. That's it. And so Blackness was kind of shading away. And it's so interesting you guys bring up Mexico, because as you know, Jennifer, I did a lot of studies on Afro-Mexico last year, and I watched the movie La Negrada, and I saw somebody comment about blackface in Mexican television. It was a huge thing, and that's why La Negrada was a huge idea. But I wrote a paper and said I think the movie fell flat for the expectations of what it could have been. So, but I could talk about that later or more on another forum. I could do a whole forum on that.
I know you can, girl. We'll get you back on here again on another Friday night. Yes, we will, Camila. All right, Amber, tell us what you think about that.
Basically, the reason what she was saying, one drop theory exists, was my mind. It was our fault. We had our own three racial categories. In Louisiana, it was slightly different. We had free people of color. There was white, free people of color, and then there was black. So there was this law that, in fact, when the Anglos came in, and I usually use the term Anglos to express like the English speakers, when they came in and we became we're no longer under France and Spain. When they started moving in, that's when we started using the term Creole to separate ourselves from English speakers. So what happened is they didn't care for the fact that a lot of the blacks were able to maneuver different from what they were used to. When they were in the other part, the colonies of the American colonies, like Virginia or whatever, the blacks had rights. They were at the very bottom. But when they got there, we were just getting out of Spanish rule, and under Spanish law, the slaves sue their slave owners. So it freaked them out. So gradually, little by little, they started trying to take rights from Creoles of color. Like, for instance, we have to wear a tignon to let everybody know that they're not black. I mean, they're different from like the black slaves, but they're not white, putting us in our place. So later with that Ferguson versus Plessy, in fact, Ferguson versus Plessy started that separate but equal rule here in the States. So that's why what happened is they started like Creoles of color, people like who we otherwise considered their own identity. Jim Crow is what made us black, turned us to African American. So to this day, you don't hear many people say Creole of color. And if you say you're a Creole of color, are you Creole? Oh, you don't want to be black. Oh, you have identity problems. It's a list of things that goes on, but we are different. We don't speak the same. We had our own language, but we're strategically marginalized. In fact, the foods is not has a Cajun label because it's more appealing to America. Like it's a whole history behind it, and it's like almost parallel with Latin culture, right? Because we were so close. Like a lot of the people that came to Louisiana after the Haitian slave revolt were from either that, like one lady in particular, she was a voodoo priestess. Her dad was from Santo Domingo, and he came with that little group in 1790. That's how close. There's even a Cuban population that runs through Louisiana. In fact, one line of my mom's side of the family made a stop from France into Cuba, married a lady, and came into New Iberia and had a sugarcane plantation. It's a long, lengthy history. But to pretty much say what Camila was saying, my kind was the reason why they created that one drop theory. Because it was too much for them. I don't think they cared for the idea of blacks having that much rights. So Jim Crow is what really destroyed what Creole is. But we're gradually trying to get it back, our identity and our language, promoting it more, because the older generation that speaks it, it's dying.
Wow, that's awesome. I appreciate your insight so much, because that's something that I wasn't aware of as far as Louisiana. And I live in Alabama, so we have Mobile, Alabama is very close to that French Creole in there. They do the Mardi Gras as well, and I knew that there was.
It was also called like the Spanish. It was part of the Florida area. They had actually it was a part of Florida that connected into Louisiana, Mobile. Mm-hmm. It's a whole it was pretty cool.
That is pretty
cool.
The
moon pie comes from there.
That is so awesome, man. I'm so excited you guys are here. If anybody wants to chime in for talking about the skin color or anything, you're welcome to. If not, I'm going to move on to the next question. And we could be here all day. We can't be here all night, but I definitely think I'm going to open up this conversation again on another Friday night. Now, this next question is for the ladies in the panel. is the word negro a word you use freely in your classroom, or are you careful who you use it around? Give us an example, especially for these teachers out there that they don't feel free to use the word negro. They can get fired for that. And I have in the resources that I'm going to send you guys are going to have some links to articles of teachers that actually got fired for using the word negro as a color. They were explaining the color and got fired. Or they accidentally, told a kid, okay, you're negro, and it's like, what? You called me a what? So, what do you guys think? How do you use it in your classroom? Because there's teachers out there with the ears open, needing to know this information. Yes, Camila. Or wait, hold on. I'm sorry, Camila. Let me get somebody that hasn't spoken that much yet. Let me get. I need.
Okay, thank you. I use that. I don't tell anybody you are negro or negra or black, because I try to be very careful here. But I do use the word black people. I say it freely because I think that is a term that we have. And I use it when we talk also from the Afro-Colombians. I use it like in Spanish, las personas negras, but I try not to use it as to identify a person and describe it. But I think that because of the restrictions of the language here, I don't feel that freedom to use it in that way.
All right, good. Thank you. Rosa, what do you think?
Well, I started always as my own picture in my classroom. And I ask my students, what do you see in front of you? Right? And then I want them to describe me. And I'm waiting for that word. And then from them, I educate them in telling them that the word negro is not the same way that you want to say negro. Okay? Negro is an insult for anyone, right? But negro is the color. Negro is the color of the skin. And then from there, if you want to say brown or so, it's okay. But the reality, the real word, that's what I base my students in, real word scenario. What's going on out there? What is the problem with the word negro? Of course, in my syllabus or in my plans, if they have to study, they will know that word will be used there. But I specify why, how, when, right? So that way I am now slowly introducing Afro-Latinos into my curriculum, because the students need to learn that their identities, right? And there is a lot of, here in Hawaii, there is students that are Black or Afro-Hawaiians, let's say, or Afro-Japanese, and then Afro-Latinos. And also in the Hispanic Honor Society, they are students that are also, so now they start identifying, oh, okay, so it's okay to be negro. Yes, it is okay. It's your identity. Now, if it becomes as an insult, then that's, no one is going to be should be calling you like that. But you can, with all the respect, back and say, soy negro. Mucho orgullo.
That's
right?
That's right.
Yeah, but they need to feel identified, right? So I start with my own example. ¿Qué ustedes ven? What do you see in front of you? I know it's a teacher, but describe it. Go ahead and describe it. Then they say, but I know that it's always like, should I say this? But then the question that they ask me is, so what is your race? You are Latina, but what is your race? Yo soy negra, descendiente de africanos. And then with that, the mind expands and say, oh, okay. And then you just take the chance from there to explain more and more and more. And usually it doesn't become that much problem as soon you have also the parents a little bit involved in it, in the way to say, okay, this is what it's going to be saying in this context and how and why. And then from there, I have any problems so far.
Wow. That's awesome, Rosa. Thank you. Rachel, what do you use in your classroom? Do you freely use the word negro?
When we're teaching the colors, yes, I do introduce the word negro, and I explain to them, kind of like Rosa does, the origin and the vocabulary and grammar of it, and then we do talk about how it is different the use here in the U.S. and how we have to be careful, and all of that. But yeah, in my class, I keep things pretty light. So the culture that I've already kind of created by the time we introduce like the colors and the word negro comes up, it's so kind of like we're a family and we have fun, and so it's not something that has been an issue for me. But yeah, and we talk about it. We also, what's helped me a lot is that we at the beginning of the year and throughout the year, I do lessons about the growth mindset and growing and how we make mistakes and all of that. So again, that culture of we're growing, we're getting better, has really helped me to develop relationships with my students where when we do come across something that may be a little bit uncomfortable, we're able to kind of navigate through it.
Good. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you. Camila, you wanted to say something about this?
Yeah, I had a couple of thoughts. Like, I looked up that article when you mentioned that before we started this, and I was thinking about how I use it, because I definitely use it, and I can't say without problems completely. I have had students think when we saw the word negro, they automatically see that and they say, oh yeah, Negro, that means black. And I'd say, no, the word is not Negro, because, historically there's, a little bit more complex issues with that word. So it's not Negro, it's Negro. So I definitely would make sure they understand the pronunciation, that Negro is not the same as Negro. And then it's also not the N word. But I also have had the conversation with my older students that it is the origin of the N-word and the word Negro, except it was like, taken out of context and turned into something ugly in English. And in Spanish, it's not how it is. Although we've been talking about how in some places it is still negative when it comes at least to skin descriptor. And I also wanted to tell you guys it's interesting because with my younger kids, I realized my kindergartners and first graders, when we're going over our colors, most of them actually think blanco is black because it looks closer to the word black. Mm-hmm. And then I have to tell them, and I kind of laugh at myself when I say it, but it's like when you get older, you'll start to realize why negro is black. And you'll be able to remember it better. Because I remember it because I know the word Negro referred to black people. Because I've heard that word before. But I have to be careful. It's like, when you're talking to younger kids about those racial terms, don't know really what to say. But I definitely have had students ask me, is that the N word in Spanish? I'm like, no, that's not the N word. This word is okay to say. It's not a bad word. And I've even told my students that sometimes it's a word of endearment, but it just depends. So.
That's right. Thank you, Camila. Amber, what do you say in your classroom? Do you openly say negro?
I mean, when I say it, it's like for color purposes because I've worked in predominantly all African American schools. So when I say it, I'll try to let them know that it is the color. But when I refer, I'll just use like the word moreno or morena to describe darker skinned. I don't even get too much into the details of like color. Now, what I will do is if they make a big deal of, well, you're black and you speak Spanish. I do bring up about Afro-Latinos and show them that there are people that look like them who speak another language. That being blackness doesn't equate English speaking. Black in being of African descent they come from all colors. They have blacks who speak French. There are blacks who speak Spanish. There are blacks who speak Portuguese. So it's pretty much, I feel like in schools that have predominantly African American students or of African descent, it benefits them to see people that look like them who speak other languages. So it opens them up to the diaspora. So that's what I like. And that's how you do in class.
And that's good. Everything you guys have said is really good. I know that I had somebody in our group asked me that what do they do, because they were reading a literature book in Spanish, and it was a higher level, and in it said the word negro to describe a person. Well, some African American students got mad at the teacher. The teacher was a light-skinned Latina, and the teacher got in trouble for that. So she asked me, do you openly, say negro? And I said, no, I don't. For some reason or another, negro to me is a respectful word. I take it like a little baby, very careful with it, stroke it, make sure that I'm just not throwing it everywhere. Yes, it is a color. Like Rachel said, I describe it as a color, but I'm also very careful with how I use it, because especially with me, Amber, you teach mostly African-American kids. I teach mostly white kids. Like I only have like 2 African-American students. So I don't want my white students to play around with that word. You know how kids are. If I start saying, oh, la negra, if I say negro, eso negro, then they start playing with it. And they start playing with it against each other, not meaning to, but then it's like it's your fault because you're the one who introduced it the way you did. So I think that we just need to be careful as world language teachers. Be very careful how you use that word. And even if you need to, announce yourself and say, okay, remember this word is a color word, okay? La mesa negra. Like that. And I talk about the colors but when it comes to the race, then I would say Africano-Americanos, or I would say Negros de los Estados Unidos. I quickly give them a title with the word black so that it's not Negro by itself. I don't know if you understand me, but it's like I just carry it so carefully that I'm just concerned about how they're going to take it. And we have a question here that I want to put up here. It's, if anybody wants to answer it, since the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement across the world, I have noticed an uptick of the use of the word black to describe African Americans, as it was the most common way for us to identify prior to the 90s. My question is the same phenomenon happening with the use of the word negro or negra for Afro-Latinos to use to self-identify? Anybody wants to answer that question? Anybody want to say something about it? Oh, I can't. Okay. Go ahead, Anika.
Yeah, in Colombia, some Black communities or Afro communities, they started to reivindicate the word negro to self-identify themselves, because we changed the constitution in 1991, and the land that it was occupied by the Black communities was recognized for them as property. So the movement between the Afro communities, even before calling themselves Afro, they started to call las comunidades negras, so the Black communities. And it has been, and there is like two movements. One of the people that say, okay, we are Afro-Colombians, and the other movement that says we are negros, las comunidades negras, to reivindicate that the struggles that they have had since the colony, that using the word black is stronger, using the word comunidades negras is stronger than using the word Afro. So it has been used to reivindicate their struggles, and also is a word to empower the communities.
Thank you so much. Go ahead, Camila.
For me, I was going to say it's kind of similar. Well, I had 2 thoughts when I read the question. First, I know a lot more African Americans that have been preferred the word black, because some of them, they say, I'm not actually from Africa. I've been here and my family's been here. I'm American. I'm a Black American. And me, I personally said, African American, that's my culture, that's my ethnicity, but Black is my race and Black is global. And I think, and in my experience, like somebody said something about Afro-Latino being like an American term input on Latin America. And I was explaining to someone somewhere that, well, in Latin America, there's no reason for someone to say I'm Afro-Latino, because everybody's Latino. And so instead, they might use the word negra or moreno, and I've heard that. I know lots of people that do it, and it's a source of Black pride, and it's a source of connecting with other Black people throughout the diaspora. So I would say I've observed that, especially like someone put something about las vidas negras importan, because I attended a forum like this where I got to listen to people throughout Latin America, including a Haitian woman, of Dominicans, and think there was an Afro-Mexican in the group. There was a lot of people. So they definitely use the word negro and negra to self-identify. And I think part of it comes from the Black Lives Matter movement. It came specifically and only from that. And that's it.
Oh, you were breaking up a little bit. I don't know if you were still talking, Camila.
Oh, I was, and then I stopped.
Oh,
what did you hear?
The last thing I think we did. Yeah, I think we did hear the last thing. All right. Well, that was an excellent question about that, because I know that, like what I told you guys about my experience, that I just started calling myself negra, and it's something that it changed my life, because once you identify as that, it's like people are looking at you like, oh, really? That's what you are. But I live in Alabama, so when people look at me, just like Rosa said, look at me. What do you see? If you don't hear my accent, what are you gonna identify with me? What are you gonna put me? What category? And a lot of people say, oh, you're like black and white. You're mixed. So I said, well, you know what? I'm negra. And I said that. And it's like, okay, things have shifted for me a little bit. And I know that it seems to be like a popularity thing now after what happened with George Floyd and with J-Lo bringing that in her music, saying, you're negrita, which that's another controversy that we got to talk about, because kids are going to be confused. Like, okay, why is Jennifer Lopez calling herself negra if she's really not? She's a light-skinned Latina. But the reality of all of that is that she's just, that's a term of endearment for Latin Americans, that they even call negritos to people who are light-skinned. But what do you guys think about that? Because I've never actually heard that, but this is a Puerto Rican, New Yorker background. So like, Rachel, what do you think about that? Like, have you heard of that term, like a light-skinned Puerto Rican being called a negrito?
I have not personally. I mean, yeah, normally you call a negrita someone who's like my skin tone or darker. And it's term of endearment. The way that I've heard it, or morenita, it's usually a term of endearment. So no, I have not heard someone who looks like J-Lo.
So yeah,
called a negrita. So that was new to me.
There was an uproar with that. It's controversial because she's not black. She's never considered herself black until now. She's saying, "Oh, I'm black." I believe that people can consider themselves whatever they want. I don't want to be getting mad at somebody for no reason. I'm too old for that. I'm too old to be getting mad at people for that. But then it's like, okay, you're confusing our kids. You're confusing our students. So we need to be able to say, and somebody saying, okay, how about Amara la Negra here? Amara la Negra keeps her stance that she is negra. She looks it anyway, guys. We can't take that away from her. What are we going to call her, white? It's like people ask that and people say that. And I don't know if you guys get this, but do you find that sometimes African Americans can seem a little bit insensitive when it comes to Amara la Negra saying she's negra? It's like, I've seen it on TV. It's like, wait, she's not black. What are you? And I've heard people tell me and my husband that, like, you guys are not black. What are you? You're not black. And it's like, okay, wait a minute. Are you saying that we're white? What do you guys think about that? Go ahead, Amber.
I think it's disparaging, the comments. Like, I actually watched when she was on, reality TV. When she was on Love and Hip Hop, she was explaining it. And then also when she got an interview on The Breakfast Club with Charlie the God, I didn't like how he handled her.
Yeah, I remember.
I did not like how he handled. Oh, it was awful. It was like,
it was awful.
And then the reason why it triggered me, because when I'm black, I grew up speaking Spanish. I was the only Spanish speaker in my class. I pretty much had the same experience as a Spanish speaker inside of a Spanish class, basically. And on top of that, it also got on my nerves because when I was in school, that's what I was studying, the African diaspora in Latin America. Like, I was going to get my master's, and that was going to be my area that I studied. So I already kind of knew, and then the way they did it, it was so ignorant. It was like, you had DJ Envy. For someone who does not know what a Afro-Latino is, it was like some weird Wikipedia type thing. Like, there were just this new thing that popped up. They've always existed. It was just a bolt stop, like literally. They had, in fact, what I try to tell people now since I'm teaching social studies, I try to let my students know that there were more blacks that settled in Latin America than there were in the States. We only in the States, and I don't say we like me because because my people were part of French section, so there were like 16% of us that went somewhere. So it was Haiti, Martinique, and all those places, but only 6% went to the United States. 45 went to Brazil, and the other 26% went to Latin America, and they were in Mexico. They settled around Veracruz. They ended up in, I mean, of course, not so much in Guatemala and Honduras because they went bankrupt after a while. But in Colombia has the third largest black population in Latin America. The first largest black population is in Brazil, and then next you have Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and Cuba, of course. But I mean, the a level of ignorance that exhibits in the States, and I don't necessarily blame the blame on Black Americans too much. It's the books. It's the textbooks. The textbooks fail to place this because now that I see it more now since I'm a social studies teacher, I saw one statement that they had, like, this person made this PowerPoint. He showed all of these slaves went to like Virginia, which was a lie. They didn't all go to Virginia. And then there were 10 million that came across the Atlantic. At least 45% of them went to Brazil, and they're still there. So it's like, I mean, I guess Americans are basically white Americans. I don't mean to say it like that. They have this binary concept of race. It's like you're either white or black. There's no in between, and that's the problem that they have when they see Latin Americans. And even for me as a Creole, they don't know with these different they don't, when they see different colors of blacks, it just like, you're just black, and they just throw them on black. They try to do it with the census. The census even says it. It still does. They're trying to acknowledge that they may be black Hispanics, so they'll put Hispanic, white, or black. Like this, the same binary thing over and over. I don't care for it too much.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent.
No, that's fine. We need to have these conversations. Like, this is just a conversation, and we gotta express it because all of us teachers have our opinion. Okay, everybody wants to talk on this topic, so we're gonna do Anika, Rosa, Camila, and Rachel. Go ahead.
Thank you. There is a comment from Regina saying there are no Black Latinx people on the world, and I really like that because I was doing a class. I was talking about the Afro-Latinos, estudios Afro-Latino-Americanos, and one term that really called my mind was Afro-Latino-Americano, and it's what I really feel identified, because they were saying, okay, we get the Afro from Africa, the Latino from Spain because it's the Latino root, and then the Americano, we have to add it because it's including all the Native Americans. And when we talk, for instance, like cumbia, which is the cumbia from Colombia, we see that mix of culture. They have a piece of African from the drums. It has the piece from the flutes from the indigenous, and then has this other piece from the dancing and the singing from the Spanish, and it's all that mix. And this is, I consider that cumbia is like a reflection of us. Like, we don't know where we are just that mix, but I think that is important to include the term Americano, Afro-Latino-Americano, because as you said, there is no, like, we cannot say it, there are different shades, but at the end, we are just complete mix. And someone said, like, oh, that mestizaje is just, but we are a complete mix of colors and cultures. Like sometimes, because as I say, the dancing was so important for me. I have been learning dancing forever, and when I see, sometimes when I came to United States and I started to study like belly dance, and I was like, oh, we have that movement in Colombia, and then an African dance, oh, we do that in certain dance. So all the elements from all the war and all the crusades and all those things that happened in Europe before the colony, and then everything come together, and then the Latinos, we are just the pieces from the whole world together. So we cannot claim like we are this or we are that. We are just that beautiful mix of colors that, for me, the Afro-Latino-Americano puts all of us in one place. And another point that I wanted to do is like, yes, we have been so silenced. Like the black part of the history of Latin America was completely wiped out. Like it doesn't exist. When the tango started, no, there was started like the black people were dancing and singing tango and the bandolion, everything in Argentina. But then what happened? Nobody wanted to know, like, this is the music of the black people. And then when someone saw them, they were like, oh, that's nice music. They brought it to Europe, and then they became so popular. And then the Argentinians, oh yeah, yeah, tango is from Argentina. The same happened with cumbia. Like before, like, oh, that's the popular music. Toto La Momposina, she went to Europe, become famous, and then came back to Colombia. Oh yeah, the cumbia is. So it has happened with the music. Like we need to pass for the process of what become like the white intervention to be accepted in part of our culture, but black people, like right now there was a census in Mexico, and the number of black people increased because people are starting to recognize themselves as black, because before it wasn't even in the census. So the silence of all the black part of in the history of Latin America, that's why we cannot talk about that, and we don't know that exists, and we don't recognize as black, because it didn't happen. They were just people that were there, and with nobody want to talk or recognize themselves or as them. So that's, I think that process of whitening is the one that has keep us in, like, we don't exist.
That's true. That's true. Gracias, Nika. Okay, Camila, your turn.
No, it was Rosa.
It was Rosa, perdóname.
You said Rosa was next.
Rosa,
I'm holding so much in here. There's so much I want to say, but but I believe that, and this is my personal opinion, that it's like trying to hide who we really are behind those words, morenita, mestizaje, and whatever else is called instead of say negro. Okay, I don't think that is a word for insults. It should not. It's just the identity, our identity. If we continue to call ourselves morenita, negrita, mestizaje, we are supporting the kind of hiding the truth. Okay, and like Ainaka, I'm sorry, was saying about where is that, where it comes, where it don't always come, the music, the dance, everything. It comes from Africa. So when we're gonna start talking about that, we need to start about story. Where is the beginning of everything? Without a beginning, we cannot keep going, right? So we need a beginning. So where started? Start in Africa. When the kings, princes, and other people in there were still, so they ain't came here voluntarily applying for visa. They steal them and bring them all over the world. They were not just from here to any place in the United States. They are all over. They were all over, right? And then that's when, of course, ended up in my country in Panama, and they were the ones that built the canal. So that's where I come from. But they were also coming, escaping from Colombia. Some of the rebels of the slave were escaping from Colombia, ended up in Panama. That was my grandfather. And I just find out about that like 2-3 months ago, making a documentary with the Hispanic Honor Society about Afro-Latinos. And I didn't know. I thought that my ancestors were, I mean, not my ancestor, but my grandfather and, you know, the closer ancestor were just in Panama, without kind of like of forgetting that it was from Africa. So it takes time for us to sit and study a little bit more, find research, you know, do research and find some data and everything that we need in order to be able to teach later, okay, about this. Because the student's gonna have millions of questions, detailed questions that you say like, oh, wait, I need to see. But if we know our roots, where exactly we come from, and without being scared of calling each other negro, instead, like you say, Amara la negra, she don't put la morenita, no, la negra. And then when I identify myself, I realized, I said, you know what, because I used to wear too much relaxer, and as a matter of fact, my mom did relaxer on me since I was 5 years old. But my mom was light skinned, straight hair. I don't know if she's white or she's mestiza. I don't know. I just know my mom right there, right? But then on my father's side, everybody was black. So kind of like fitting somewhere, relax, relax, relax my whole life. until I start listening to and doing my research. And you know what? No, I'm black. So I took it off and I wear probably my curl hair and let it grow as a big afro. Sometimes today I just gotta do nice hair, but I have a big afro. And I just go out there and wear it. And people look at you like, wow. But it's because you are unique, you are different. Huh? But that difference is what it makes it beauty. And that's what the beauty that they don't want us to show. So what I do in my classes is all about African descendants, culture, music. They hear the el ritmo de los tambores. We are studying Colombia, where it comes this dance. We go to Guatemala, when it's the other dance, the music, everything. I have a lot of support from a couple of friends here in the community that they are musicians and people from the radio and all that. So they help me to bring more information to my classroom. That's all the resources that we as a teacher can use in the future as well. But I will just like not to let nothing to cover us. I think it's enough. Not because the Black movement, but this coming over the years. We all here have saying we experienced this in the early years, right? And it's about the time just to call the things by their name and not let it cover. Of course, there are other procedures that we need to follow as the teachers and all that. But as a community, there's nothing wrong with that. My music, my dance, my hair, my complex, everything for me is perfect. So that's all I want to share today about that.
Thank you, Rosa. That was very empowering, very, very special. Thank you for sharing that, especially about the hair, because I used to straighten my hair too,
Yeah.
and it fell out.
Do you know that our ancestors in Africa, the way that they used to mark the way to escape from the white owners is doing braids.
Yes, that's right. The cornrows. That's right. That's awesome.
I got to my students. They go, "Whoa, the braids!" And I
Yes.
said, "Yeah." So I always try to do my hair somewhere, and they say, "Where do you go here and there?" We play around, but it's the truth. They learning history through our language and the culture that we're teaching them. So it was different points. It's just for us to make more research and start protecting them what we want them to learn.
That's right. That is important to teach about those braids and everything, because I have some students that when they're doing they join this club and they have to initiate in this club. It's the majority whites in this club, and one of the initiation is that they have to braid their hair, but it looks so ugly. It's ugly. It's like, and I get offended, so I'm like, hey girls, I know a lady down the street. She does some nice braids, and she won't charge you that much because you're my student. So let's get you. No, Ms. Y, it's okay. You just gotta do these braids. I say, if you're gonna do them, do the best braids ever. I'm like trying to empower them. Like, look, if you could do this thing, do it right. Let me do it for you. Let me give you a braid. But it's like, why are they initiating kids and saying that braids are ugly? It's like, it's kind of like, okay, I would have to research more in that club and see more about it, but every year they do this in a certain part of the year and they're wearing those ugly braids and it's just ugly. but we do need to teach our kids about that because it's important. We need to show them that African Americans are geniuses, right? There's so many good things about them, so many geniuses that they have when they were enslaved. Instead of always saying, oh, they were enslaved, a lot of teachers don't like talking about this. They say, no, it's too much about slavery. It's too much sad stuff. It's like, okay, bring out the good stuff. Elevate the good stuff about them. All right, Camila, sorry about that. Go ahead, girl.
Oh, you're good. So I know what I was going to say, but I also wanted to comment based on y'all's hair conversation right now, especially this little club you just mentioned. It reminded me of when I first went natural. I went natural when I was studying abroad in Spain. And I used to do these braid outs and I used to do these ugly little cornrows. And not saying that cornrows are ugly, but my cornrows were ugly. And I didn't like them at all, but I just used it for a braid out. But I used to get compliments all the time. And I was like, oh my God, estos blancos no saben mejor. I was like, these Spanish people, they don't know any better. So they're telling me all these compliments. I was like, these are not nice cornrows. I promise you, they're way better. I can't cornrow to save my life. But I was thinking earlier, my comment originally was to go back to what Amber was talking about. So first, it was very painful to watch that Amarala Negra interview on The Breakfast Club. Like, it was so painful. And then talking about, like, does Amara la Negra even deserve to be called Black, or, you know, how is she taking that word? And it makes me think of so many times, like, because somebody else talked about a couple of things in the comment I saw about the word Black being something that's, you know, specifically for African Americans, and how Black is our word. And for me personally, I don't think it ever was only for African Americans. And then someone mentioned Black Power movement. Black Power and Black history in the United States has never only been about African Americans. And I have to defend that every year during Black History Month when I teach about Afro-Latinos. I had last year, a parent asked me, and I remember I wrote this, I've written so many long rants about it. And I was like, if Black history was only about African Americans, we would never learn about Marcus Garvey. We would never learn about Stokely Carmichael. And then last year, no, not last year, the year before, I think, one of my years here teaching at my school, they did a research project, my middle schoolers, and I remember seeing one of the social studies teachers listen to the report that one of my students did on John Carlos, you know, the guy from the 1968 Olympics, who was up there with Tommy, I think it's Lewis is his name, or maybe Tommy Smith, I think that's it. But he was up there and he said, wait, I thought he was Black. And now you're telling me he's Cuban? And I'm like, okay, so yes, he's Afro-Cuban, but that does not mean he's not Black. Mm-hmm. It just means that's where his ethnicity is. That's where his parentage is from. It has nothing to do with him being Black. And I think that's been a confusion about Black in the U.S. because some people use Black and African American interchangeably, mm-hmm. and they're not the same thing. And I had to explain it to my students because we have, like, my school is majority Black staff, students included. And even when I worked in DC versus Atlanta, I had explained to people, I was like, where's that teacher? You know, Mrs. So-and-so, where's she from? She's like, oh yeah, she's Jamaican. I was like, but isn't she Black? And they were like, yeah, she's Black. And I was like, okay, well, Jamaica is not in the United States. She's not African American because she's not American. She's Jamaican. And they're like, oh, okay, I guess I see what you mean. But there's been this weirdness about, you know, calling people Black or African American, and then some people trying to be overly politically correct and avoid calling people Black and say African American. I think I was talking to somebody, they were using African American while they were in France, referring to people, Black people in France. It's just like, you can say Black. It's not a bad word. It's not a dirty word, you know. But I was just thinking in Latin America, and it's just like Black people who are Latino, Blacks and otherwise, and it's for me, it's very annoying, and it comes from that ignorance of not knowing, but I always have to teach them, because even I remember when my brother got married and my grandfather looked at my my cuñada's mom, because she's Puerto Rican and she's dark skinned, and like she's darker than all of us in this call, and she's like, I thought she was Puerto Rican, but she looks Black. And I was like, well, she's Black, but she's also Puerto Rican. They're not mutually exclusive. And that's what everyone keeps thinking, you know, that if you're Latino, that means you're not Black. And then in the United States, being Latino has been racialized, like it's its own thing, and it's not, you know, because you could literally look like anyone. You look like any of us in here. You could look like J-Lo, because J-Lo is definitely Latina. But you could also look like, you could be Asian. I tell that to all my students. You could be of anything. You know, being Latino is diverse. It's not a race at all. It's just a linguistic, mega ethno term, you know? It's an ethno-linguistic term. It's not a racial term. So Amara La Negra has every single right to call herself Black because she is Black. She embodies everything about Black girl magic. And as I don't know if Rosalind is in here, one of the Spanish teachers in DC, but I remember she shared a post that from a couple years, and she said, I'm not claiming Black, I am Black, you know. And I just love how she said that. And I say that to say Amara La Negra is not claiming Blackness. She is Black. You know, it's not something she has to argue. And I mean, some people will say I claim Blackness, but I'm a Black woman. You know, y punto. Yeah,
That's right.
that's it.
Punto y aparte. That's right, Camila. Thank you for representing Raquel. Rachel. I changed your name, Rachel. Rachel. Gosh, sorry about that. I change all my students' name, by the way. So when I see your name, I'm like, I gotta call her Raquel. All right, Rachel. So tell us.
Wow. Okay. So where to? Okay. Well, I think I want to touch upon a little bit about the importance of making sure we're highlighting the good as well as not oversimplifying. You know, the historical context and all the things that have happened. In explaining to students that it isn't a binary thing, that you can be, black, that the Latino culture it's like a melting pot in a way. We have all these different beautiful colors, and that's what makes Latino culture so beautiful and amazing. And just within my own family, with my grandpa was white, my grandma's black. I mean, I look like this. I mean, I remember being in middle school and my sister, who's fair skinned but looks like me, and we would be sitting next to each other, and kids would be trying to come up to us like, "Are you mixed? Is your mom black and your dad white?" They couldn't understand that we were from the same family, we had the same parents. It's just the way Latino culture is. So I would have to sit there and explain, and all of that. And so as a teacher, I get to do that every day. I get to educate my students about the beautiful, diverse nature of being a Latino, and why, because like Rosa and everybody else was jumping around, because they were taken from, their original land and brought to other places, and everybody kind of started mixing, and it's like, this beautiful thing that happened. And then also talking about, the culture of it, and the difference, and the color line, the difference between, when I talk about racism with my students, as a Black Latina, I talk about it from my experience and the experience of several people, and how it's not a black and white thing, how there's racism within the color line. The if you're a lighter shade, black versus darker, and all of these things, and not being accepted, not feeling accepted as a child, because for the whites I was black, for the Latinos I wasn't Latina enough, and for the blacks I wasn't black, so I didn't fit in anywhere, growing up. So I try to kind of bring that whole experience when I'm introducing these topics to my students. But yeah, pretty much.
That is awesome. Thank you so much. Sorry, Rosa.
Yeah, just add it right quick. You know what's the good thing about this now? That we are teaching virtually. We got the whole family over there listening to us, not just the student. Okay, behind them are the parents over there cooking or doing something. I have realized that now the parents are getting also educated about these terms. Okay, before we lock in the classroom, only the students can hear us, and then probably misunderstanding something now and stuff. But now they are there. Some of the parents are there listening. So this is our opportunity, not just educating the child, but also the parent, because sometimes these racism and problems with the definitions of words come from home. They don't learn that in school. So we have to take this opportunity that we are teaching virtually, with all our projects together, and try to educate now not just the child, the entire family. I have emails from parents and being thankful that they didn't know this, they don't know that about this portion of Afro-Latinos or where the descendants and stuff coming. So they are there listening to.
That is so true. We do need to take advantage of that platform. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
I want to thank everybody so much for being here, the panelists. I definitely think that with all the feedback we've received, I think that we need to do it again. Maybe have a part 2 and get to my other 2 questions, because I got like 2 more questions to go. And it's like we've had such a great time together. But I knew this was going to happen. It was going to just a snowball effect. That's a joke for those that are snowing out there. Anyway, so snow on effect. So it's getting bigger and bigger. This conversation is getting deeper and deeper, but we need to hear it because we need to be able to understand our students. We need to be able to relate. And we need to be able to know what to do in one of those situations that are uncomfortable, that you want to say that word, you say it, what to do next, what to do to prepare for it. But just remember that at the end, Black, la palabra negro, is a term of endearment. It's a term of endearment. If we could just relay that to our students, that we want to elevate Black joy, like someone said here, elevate Black joy, elevate the Black history with not just the food and the dance, like someone also mentioned here. They said also to elevate them with history and linguistic. And remember that the color Black, though it does have negative connotations to it, it also has good connotations to it. It's like Black Friday, right? Black Friday. We have some other connotations to Black that are positive. I'm trying to look for my list. I have a list right here. Where is it? Oh my goodness. But it's like I had to do a list for my students because I'm like, look, Black is not always a bad word, even though people are constantly using it as a bad word. But no, there is a lot of ways that we can use Black that is positive. Also, I wanted to put in there that someone asked, what does prieto mean? And prieto means dark skin, a person that's dark skin. And that's also a word that, gosh, that's another conversation we're going to have to start getting into. But some people say it in a negative way. Some people say it in the same thing here. But I wanted to thank everybody on the panel that's here today for spending time with us here tonight. And if you guys don't mind, would you mind coming back and doing another Friday night session, maybe? So excited to have you guys. Everybody that was watching, thank you for your comments. The comments are going to be on Facebook, so everybody in the panel, you can go back and chat with them again. Any last words before we close for today, Rachel?
Yes, if you're looking for Black history resources about Afro-Latino culture and how to introduce that to your student, Jennifer and I did several trainings together a while back, earlier, sometime in 2020, I can't remember when. And that's available inside of the Academy. Jennifer has the link. I have an academy, the World English Teacher Tech Academy. So Jennifer, if you want to email that to your list.
Yes, I can do that. I can add that to the resource. Everybody who registered for this event, I'll make sure that I'll put that link in there so you guys could attend that as well. Yes. That is awesome. Okay, Anaika, you want to go ahead and say something? Go ahead.
Okay, gracias. I just want to, this morning when I arrived to my class, I asked my students, do you like hip hop? And the kids, yay. Okay, do you like jazz? Yeah. Do you like, have you said blues or soul? Yes. Okay, so say gracias, Africa, because all this music comes from Africa. So celebrate the Black History Month with music. And I play some music today and everything. But really, when we talk about the contributions, yeah, it's not only the struggles, but also the great things that we heritage from them, a part of that beautiful skills that we all show today. But yes, the music for me has been like a train for them, and the kids, we play some music, and the kids will cannot dance in the classroom, but right now because of the pandemic, but that was like good introduction. So music is always a great way to bring the kids to the, and this is a train with history, because yeah, we start going from the back. What is here? How did it come here? What happened? And then so on. But music, always you have a positive part there.
Thank you, Ainaka. Anybody else from the panel want to say last words before we close for today and enjoy our evening while Rosa enjoys her whole day, because she still has a whole day left? We gotta go to sleep, but she's wide awake.
Yeah, it's not even dinner time yet. So
look at you. I mean, really.
It's only 4:23. So imagine.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing.
We're looking for part 2, and hopefully we got all of the people who assist today to follow us in our second part. Can't believe it. We got some questions, right? And this is a subject that can go for hours and days.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Our job now is to learn more about it and be able to can communicate that to not only students but the community in general.
That is awesome.
Right.
They're sending you hugs. Abrazos, part 2, definitely part 2. This will be recorded. People are asking, is this going to be recorded? Yes, it is being recorded, of course. And I am going to send it to you through a link. I'm going to see if I could do some kind of magic and cut off that whole beginning part where I'm asking for the weather. I don't know if I could do that, but I'm going to try. So thanks to everybody. We're going to share the resources. Chucky Town, that's awesome. Thank you, everybody, for keeping this thread alive. You guys are saying so many comments. Thank you again, everybody. Adios. Hasta luego. Bye.